His campaign is Eliot Cutler. He is the independent candidate for governor of Maine. Eliot, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Steve. Good to be here.
So we should point out, we invited Congressman Michaud. We also invited the governor on. We invited all three. Congressman Michaud wanted to make it. I guess there were some issues in scheduling.
We have two empty chairs here.
He wanted to make it, so I want to give him credit for that, and we'd love to have him on another time. But we have you here, and I mean, I'll hit you with a question you must get probably more than any other on the campaign trail. I mean, you look at that poll, you look at Paul LePage's record, and you look at a Maine voter who looks at Paul LePage and says, my priority this year is to get Paul LePage out. Isn't there a case to be made for let's unify the opposition here?
Not really, not in Maine. You know, we have a history of electing independents. We've had 10 gubernatorial elections in the last 40 years. Independents have won 3 and almost 4 of them. We're pretty independent in Maine. We're independent voters. And I think the real issue in Maine is not only whether we show Paul LePage the door. That's going to happen. The real question is, do we elect the best person to replace him? That was also the question in 2010. Maine people like choices. And I think that it's understandable that the Republicans and the Democrats would like to have just 2 candidates in the race. I get that. But that's not what most voters want. Voters in Maine are like people in a small town where, you know, everybody, most of the people in town would like to buy sensible lace-up brown shoes or black shoes, and there are only 2 shoe stores in town. And one of the stores sells nothing but bright red sandals, and the other one sells nothing but bright blue big rubber boots. Voters are disappointed in choices.
But isn't there a case to be made? I mean, and I understand from your situation, too, it must be frustrating to hear Democrats say this because you ran so much stronger than the Democratic candidate in 2010. So I imagine you might be thinking they're saying, hey, if you want to unify the opposition, then you get out of the race. I'm the one who almost won in 2010. I could imagine that. But at the same point, when you look at those results from 2010, it is true, right? If it had been a one-on-one race with somebody against LePage, LePage doesn't get in the first place.
Sure, but that's, you know, that's a defense of a system that's broken right now. Most voters are disenchanted with both parties. I mean, in the last Senate election, when the Democrat won 12% of the vote statewide,
this is when Angus King
won. It was an open U.S. Senate seat, and we had a Democrat nominated by the Democratic primary, a Republican nominated from a Republican primary. Both of them went into the general election together with the votes of less than 5% of the registered voters of the state of Maine. Maine voters are disenchanted with the 2 political parties, just like most voters in America are.
Is it something, though, I mean, again, Paul LePage isn't an ordinary incumbent. I think it's safe to say Paul LePage has made national headlines. As we say, this week it's with this sort of far-right group that has been marked as a domestic terrorist movement by the FBI. What happens if, let's say, we're in October and the polls look like they look right now? Paul LePage has a real chance of winning with a plurality of the vote because the opposition is divided, and you're where you are in the polls right now. Does part of you, is there a point where you will look at this and you will say the priority has to be getting Paul LePage out of office, and if I don't want to be the guy that gives him a second term?
Steve, I love the state of Maine. I don't think that Paul LePage is a good governor. I don't think Mike Michaud will be a good governor or would be a good governor. Maine has had 11 straight years of decline in our economy against the rest of New England. We're in desperate trouble. We're the oldest state in America and getting older faster than just about any other state. We need to make some real structural changes in Maine. We need to do a lot of things we're not doing. We need to fix the way we think. We need to fix the way we work. Mike Michaud is not going to do that. He's a backbencher. He's a backbencher in the Congress of the United States, which is the last place in the world you should look for innovation and bold leadership.
Your background is you worked in OMB in Jimmy Carter's presidency. You were an aide to Ed Muskie, you know, longtime senator from Maine. So your background is sort of on the Democratic side.
Oh, as a Republican briefly after I was a Democrat.
So what separates you from somebody like, I mean, we understand what separates you from LePage. What separates you from somebody like Michaud?
Well, number one is experience. I have a world, literally a world of experience in and out of politics and government, in business, that Mike Michaud doesn't have. He has no experience managing anything, and the government of the state of Maine is the biggest single enterprise in the state. We have no plan. We have no vision, we have no strategy, and Mike Michaud isn't bringing those to the table. That's the first difference. Second difference is that I'm a person of strong principles. I've been a committed person of values and principles all my life, and you can't say that about Mike. And third, I refuse to take money from special interest PACs. And Mike Michau's taken $1,000 a day every day he's been in the Congress of the United States, including Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, from Big Sugar, Big Tobacco, Monsanto, everybody. And I don't think that money in politics is the solution to America's or Maine's structural problems.
You said, the first question I asked you, you said Paul LePage is not going to get reelected. How can you be so sure of that?
Because Maine voters are tired and embarrassed, and they know that we need change. Last time... when you see a poll, and he's nearly at 40% right now, and that's the number he won with last time, there are people who stuck with him for 4 years. They see something in him. Oh, I think Paul LePage will get 30-something%.
So that means there's a chance he can win.
There's a chance you could win.
Well, I'm not on the ballot.
No, I know that. But my point is that there's a chance that anybody can win. Polls in June and July, you know this because you're a political wonk, you know that polls in June and July, particularly in three-person races, are not at all predictive. They're horribly unpredictive. Last time, I didn't get to 20% in the polls until October the 12th. At this time, I was still in single digits. Maine voters aren't paying attention, and the last poll, maybe one of the better polls published, shows that 66% of Maine voters haven't made up their minds who they want to vote for. That's a huge undecided pool. And Maine voters, like most voters in America, don't pay much attention until about the 1st of October. The Democrats' whole strategy, Steve, is to get voters to vote before the debates begin. There's a reason that Paul and Mike aren't here with me today. They don't want to debate.
Well, no. Again, I do want to point out, Mike, Congressman Michaud did want to be here today, so I do want to give him credit for that. But what you're saying also, it is true about your race in 2010, and I remember this with Angus King in 1994 when he got elected governor of Maine. It's true. The independent candidates who've won in Maine generally do start out far behind and come back. So this is a question to watch, and as this race for people who want to get Paul LePage out as the governor of Maine. Who is in that second slot when you get to late October? And
it's not just who is going to get him out. It's who's going to be a good governor to replace it.
All right. Eliot Cutler, independent candidate for governor of Maine. Appreciate you coming down. Appreciate you coming on today.